know that about it. I want to tell them to go back. What's the work station? I don't know who's going to be here tomorrow besides me. I haven't had anybody else confirm. Tomorrow. They say you just read it now. Everything is like it is the morning. You can go. My friend, I can't my friends. I don't know. Nobody responded yet. I figured out.
Audio check or something. Somebody.
I can get all my friends. Yeah.
Yeah, my left is on my left.
Oh, okay. Well, come on. Hey, Tim. I'm not. Tim, how you doing?
Hey, quick question. You see Mike Levin? No, I'm good. I'm booked in. But I just want somebody to talk on. Talk. Right. I can't talk. Listen.
Testing. Okay. All right. Testing, microphone. Microphone testing. Testing. Got it. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, January the 28th, Community Development Human Services Committee. I am Jason Winston, chair of the committee. I am joined by my colleagues. To my right, Councilmember Andrea Boone. To my far left, we have Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, and to my immediate left, we have Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari. This does constitute a quorum, so I do officially call this meeting to order. I will make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
No, second.
We have a second by Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted.
Thank you, colleagues. I know you had an opportunity to look over the minutes from our last meeting. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved.
Thank you. Next, I just want to remind my colleagues that we are aiming to adopt our 2025 goals and objectives at our February 11th meeting. So please send any recommendations or changes you have prior to that meeting so that we can adopt those on our February the 11th meeting. Next, this takes us to the public comment section of our agenda. We do have several people that have signed up for public comment today, so I'll remind you that you'll have 3 minutes. I'll gently remind you when there's 30 seconds left, and so we will get started. Our first speaker is Henry Jordan.
Give now to the Spirit of God to everyone that's here. Woe unto him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that useth his neighbor's service without wages, and giveth him not for his work. Jeremiah 22nd chapter, 13th verse. The concept of fairness is emphasized, and all forms of mockery or belittling people are prohibited. Jesus said that James' script is against his word. I asked God to give him a chance because James said he was called to preach the word. James' actions prove that he is against the word of God. Behold, the hive of laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped, or entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabbath. James 5th chapter 4th verse. The Lord of Sabbath, meaning the Lord of hosts, of armies, describes the omnipotent, avenging character of the God who sees and hears this injustice. James used bribery to help people work against Jesus' word in me and in others. Receive us, we have wronged no man. We have corrupted no man. We have defrauded no man. 2 Corinthians 7th chapter 2nd verse. Receive us, the biblical definition of separation, as both a negative and positive side. James G's prove he's against the word of God by his actions. Even though I asked Jesus to give him a chance, James said, you asked, Jesus said, you asked to bound others. He will let the enemy bound you. My God. Now concerning the things were argued unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. 1 Corinthians 7, chapter 1st verse. James said he would save his body for me when I read the scripture to him. God took his nature, then he started taking Viagra. The Lord said that James has been with too many women, so I cannot marry him. The money was created to help us to live holy and increase our faith in Jesus and his word and what Christ desires to do in us, to love one another as ourselves. To obey Jesus is life. To disobey Jesus is death. What do you want, life or death?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cecilia Houston Torrance, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Chairman Winston and all the esteemed members of the Community Development and Human Services Committee, it is my honor and privilege to speak to you this afternoon about renaming the Westside Park, Reservoir Park. I am Cecilia Houston Torrance, a member of the commission appointed by Sheriff Johnson, the president of the League of Women Voters of Atlanta-Fulton County. I live in Council District 10, represented by Councilmember Andrea Boone, and I might be a little prejudiced, but it is, I think, the best district in the whole city, but I'm slightly prejudiced. Okay, that's debatable, that's debatable. The commission was comprised of 16 community leaders and held meetings and had public hearings and solicited suggestions from all citizens of this great city because we know and value the importance of public buy-in. And there were many great responses. The top 2 responses were renaming Central Avenue to Shirley Clark Franklin Boulevard and renaming the Westside Reservoir Park to Shirley Clark Franklin Park. As you know, Shirley has been a public servant and a community organizer most of her life. And as the first African-American woman mayor of a large city, she exemplifies what a true role model is. Shirley had the foresight to purchase the former Bellwood Quarry property where the West Side Park is now located. If you have not been there, I encourage you to take the time to go there and see this massive 200-acre park at the largest in our city. It is a park that I frequent with my grandchildren. They absolutely love it, and it is the home of a 350-foot deep reservoir housing 2.4 billion gallons of emergency water reserves. Without the foresight of Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin, the city's largest green space would not have been possible. This is a fantastic way of honoring this living legend while she is still here to smell the flowers. I encourage each of you to support this ordinance. And in the interest of full disclosure, Shirley Clark Franklin is also a member of the Nature Girls that I and Sue are also a member of, and we walk at the Cascade Springs Nature Preserve. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Amar Candy. You'll have 3 minutes.
Chairman Winston and members of the CDHR committee, it's good to be here with you this afternoon and to follow up, in the words of my colleague Cecilia and Torrance, to talk about the recommendations that really came from the greater Atlanta community. The commission did a very extensive outreach, both as individuals on the commission to make sure our networks and our communities were engaged in the process, as well as outreach to the library system, outreach here at City Hall, and of course tapping into technology. And of course, as Cecilia mentioned, those recommendations came forward, and the top two were the renaming of the West Side Park, as well as a street in honor of former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin. So we just come to ask for your support from what the people have spoken is one of many ways that would be appropriate to honor this distinguished woman and distinguished leader, that we may do this as just a small sampling of the contributions that she has given to this city and continues to give to this city. I think it is very synergistic, particularly around the parks being renamed, because of her continuous around helping to develop green space during her administration, as well as being an avid gardener right now in the Southwest Atlanta community. So I think this speaks, and her being a curator of community and bringing diverse backgrounds of people together. And we know that's what our parks do throughout the city of Atlanta. So we encourage you to support this effort and to really support what the people have said that they feel is the right way to honor this great woman. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and good to see you. Next, our speaker is Ms. Sue Ross. You'll have 3 minutes.
Bring this down. Good morning, Chair Winston and council members, Boone, Bakhtiari, and Westmoreland. It's a pleasure to see you and to be with you again today. My colleagues from the Shirley Clark Franklin Commission have pretty much said it all, but I want to also say that this is an appropriate time because she is approaching her 80th birthday, which will be in May. And so this is the perfect time to honor Shirley in these ways that will benefit all of our city residents and visitors. Also wanted to say that we have considerable amount of community support. I just want everybody that came at to support this on behalf of Councilmember Boone to just raise your hands so you can see all of the people we have here that are in support of this legislation. And we are really pleased to have gone through the process and gone through and are ready to take it to full council. So thank you very much. And hope to see you in full council on Monday, hopefully.
All right, thank you so much. Our next speaker is Monica Johnson. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. You might be able to guess why I'm here. I want to speak in favor of resolutions on the agenda, but also to go forward further and to say that we should have a complete end to the sweeps for as long as possible. Homelessness is not something that can be swept. It's something that has to be rooted out by policy that puts people first. And we see that the method of trying to get rid of people has resulted in a murder, in the murder of Cornelius Taylor. So I want to encourage everyone to take this moment where it is a real time for reckoning, to make a change and to make a difference in the way that we do things in Atlanta. So you guys have the power to make this be a new day in the policy towards people who don't have homes, towards all of us who are struggling to keep our housing as well. We want a housing first policy instead of, the money that we have to spend later on for health costs, for costs included in incarceration. We can spend that money and just put people in homes. So that's what we want to put forward here. I know that everyone has been shocked by this situation, but we really need to sober-mindedly look at this situation and see that what we have been doing is not working, and that we need to stop to the sweeps indefinitely, and we need to put people in housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tim Fransen. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Again, I've come to y'all today as partners in seeking justice around the issue of Atlanta's approach to ending homelessness. I maintain that it is my belief that what drove that bulldozer was Atlanta's policy, and that's what needs to be confronted and changed. We need an end to the sweeps that doesn't have a time limit. The only place we need to be sweeping with love, and we need to be putting people into permanent affordable housing. Oftentimes I hear folks that work around this issue for the city claim that we have a housing first approach. Housing first means taking somebody out of homelessness and putting them into permanent housing and then giving them wraparound services. Well, we've been down there for weeks, and some folks in here for years, working with the homeless that have, over and over again said that the approach that they experience is not just bulldozers, but also being put into shelters that are under-resourced, where they're treated inhumanely. Some of them have complained about being assaulted in various ways and being put out just 24 hours later. And so what these sweeps end up doing is they take a very a struggling demographic, folks that already have a lot of insecurity, don't have much agency. It destroys what little they have and puts them right back out at square zero, where you may have just had a tent and some belongings. Now you have nothing once again. And so this is a failed approach. This is what drove that bulldozer. And then the other thing that just want to confront, having been down there and seen the pools of blood that belonged to Cornelius Taylor, the pools of blood. Yesterday we saw a police report come out that couldn't be true. You don't have to be a detective to know that it is just patently false. It describes a superhuman person who somehow took an overdose of drugs, and then as a bulldozer was coming through, magically jumped inside of a tent just in time to start, flailing about, and was taken to the hospital as a result of this, overdose. We go down there and see pools of blood, and we talk to all the many eyewitnesses that saw this man crushed by a bulldozer. And so we just want to point out this, bald-faced lie. And we need to see more truth coming out of City Hall and coming out of our city leaders. And I do have faith that there's some empathy here. And I do have faith that there's a path forward, but it's going to take more than 30 days. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Almalat. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, how everybody? I know you. I know Andrea Boone. Matt Westmoreland used to be on our board. I know the heart of Liliana. And Mr. Jason, as the chair, you have been put by God in a powerful position. You have the opportunity to be a national light to this country regarding homelessness. My father, Hosea Williams, was very much a friend of Mr. Bond's father. They fought for justice. So what could I do? What can I do, Matt, but be here? What can I do but share with you that our hearts are broken on behalf of this gentleman who was sleeping in his tent and got rolled over by a front loader because nobody checked to see if he was in the tent. That's truth. I need your hearts to be broken. You have an opportunity, this group of people right here, to say no more sweeps. No heavy equipment, but no more sweeps. Let's go out there with a shower bus and let them take showers. Let's go out there with a washer and a dryer in a truck and have people wash and dry their clothes. Let's clean up their villages. The city can do that with a few garbage bags. Somebody said to me earlier today, well, they just don't want to have hope. They just don't want help. We try to help them and they just don't. That's a lie. Because as we were out there on MLK Day, they were asking me for apartments. And it took this man a year and a half to get his apartment. God, only Holy Spirit can break your hearts. If you want to stay hard-hearted, hey, that's on you and that's on your record in heaven. But if you want to do the right thing, stop these sweeps. Stop this. How would you like if somebody came in your house with a big truck and just took all your stuff? They human beings just like we are. Out there, I see doctors. I see people with master's degrees, sir. These are not drug addicts. These are not people that just want to be in the street. They hit a hard road to hoe, and they ended up in the street. The city knows this. But I can't, with any true faith, stand here and say we need to keep doing these sweeps. There is a better way. Let us sit at the table. There are organizations here that need to be on the new founded Mayor's Task Force for the Homeless. Hosea Helps, Housing Justice League, American Friends Service Committee, Concerned Black Clergy, Traveling Grace Ministries, Spark. Their involvement will ensure the task force benefits from, look, you can't go to somebody.
Time has expired, but we do have a list of the individuals that are
good. So I wasted that few seconds.
We'll definitely go through that list here.
But I will just say, you know what the right thing to do is. Do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you. Our next speaker is Jonathan Hull. Well, sorry. Ooh.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, 1 second. Let me just make sure we got everybody. Okay, got it. All right, now we have Ms. Almalat.
Now you have Ms. Almalat. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I said I wasn't gonna come to this city for a minute, and I had stopped coming. But when I seen on the news how y'all just forget about people, totally forget about people, it just hurts. Who was sending heavy equipment on a homeless, where homeless people at? I don't understand. Some kind of way y'all got to start having the heart. For the past 10 years, I've been telling y'all the same thing over and over again. Our communities need help. Y'all are still making people homeless and saying you're trying to help homeless. You can't help the homeless when you're making families homeless. You have people, you have families sleeping in cars. Come on, guys. Y'all know better. And the census report that y'all put together, y'all know it was fake. We don't live in Sandy Springs. We don't live in Buckhead. Y'all know the city of Atlanta was with a lot of low-income families. It's heartless of y'all to send a false report to Washington, D.C. It's sad. And y'all stutter saying y'all helping people. I got to figure out where. I work with people every day. Every day. And I'm in a bad situation myself, but I can't close my eyes. And I would never close my eyes. I'm out there to speak out on y'all. Because y'all know what's happening. Y'all ride through y'all communities. Y'all ride through Vine City, Ingles Avenue, West End, downtown area communities. These are people that had housing y'all put on the streets. Over half of them. Because you all have overrated the rent. Rent is too high. Families have a choice. Gas bill, light bill, or rent. They choose to rent. They can't afford light and gas. What are y'all doing? Y'all don't take nobody reports. Y'all don't take the list of homeless. Y'all don't take nothing. And I'm not putting this just on one person. I'm putting it on all the city council members because y'all know what's going on in these communities. People have spoken to y'all. They have faced y'all. And y'all fall asleep. It go in one ear and out the other. Give us some help in our community. Stop putting out false reports like you are helping us. Y'all are not helping us. Give us some help. Give the people some more hope. Get these babies and youth off the streets. Y'all need to be ashamed of yourselves.
Thank you. I just want to just acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond. Our next speaker is Jonathan Hole. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
Good afternoon. My last name is pronounced Holly, but I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm here to reiterate what my colleagues have said with the Justice for Cornelius Taylor Coalition. The sweeps need to stop. They need to stop indefinitely. It is not enough to pause them for 30 days. I want to make something clear here. If somebody came to your home and threatened to remove you by force, that would be an injustice. It would not be less of an injustice if they did it 30 days later. That's not how injustice works. Stop the sweeps, first thing, find a better way. That's your job. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Our next speaker is Matthew Nursey. You'll have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. My name is Matthew Nursey, and I am an organizer with the Housing Justice League, and I am here to demand that we put a stop to the sweeps. I'm here to support Councilmember Bakhtiari's resolution to do such, and like Jonathan said, it needs to be done permanently. There's never a time to do ethical sweeps. That doesn't exist. So to stop them now is good, but we need to keep them permanently stopped forever. There has to be a better way. And, you know, we're not just gonna raise hell here. I understand that y'all need help from the state. We're gonna raise hell at the state level too, and we're gonna try to get some funds flowing because this issue, I see that we have a Atlanta Housing quarterly update coming up, and I appreciate that. Look forward to seeing it. I can give you the update. Not enough. Simply not enough. And, you know, I know y'all have done work, and I know the mayor's done work, but it doesn't meet the moment. This is a moment that has been created for decades of an Atlanta way that has failed its citizens. Y'all keep approaching housing, insisting that there needs to be, you know, private collaboration, and there has to always be some sort of private investment. There has to be some way to make money off of the situation. But the bottom line is we need public housing that is free for people if they need it. And we need to invest in alternative forms of housing, like land trusts and things like that, with organizations that are doing work to provide housing. And we need to provide funds to the organizations on the ground that are doing homelessness services. Partners for Home needs to be frankly dismantled and reconfigured into something new with people from the communities, from these encampments, people who live on the streets, and people who work at the organizations and who do the advocacy and organizing on the ground floor. So I'm just saying we need to figure out a way to provide housing first and then wraparound services such as healthcare, job placement. Most of us in this country, especially in this city, live paycheck to paycheck. We are literally one accident away from being on the streets. And I don't know how y'all here and how the people under the Gold Dome can drive into work every day and see people living in tents and not do something about it. So now is the moment. We must meet it. This is a great opportunity to create a new Atlanta way that works for all of us.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jawad Shirwani. You'll have 3 minutes.
Everyone.
Bring the microphone down. Good afternoon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jawad Shirwani. I'm part of the community of Atlanta. I just moved about a year ago here. And since I moved, literally, I just been going to protest, to vigil, to Black Lives Matter, to everything. It's like, and it's really, we're tired, but we're not gonna stop fighting. We're not gonna stop fighting for the one who can't speak. I'm here today for justice for Cornelius Taylor and every homeless in the street. We need to stop the sweep. We need to get a permanent home, not a shelter. We need to not put a limit, 30 days or 45 days, and then in the end of 45 days, we have another case of bulldozering. And I heard Tim was talking about how Cornelius and how the police report. If I'm homeless and I see a bulldozer coming approaching me, I'm gonna get out. And if I'm the one driving the bulldozer, I'm gonna get out and check, because I'm actually bulldozing and I'm killing person home. I'm destroying a person home. This is his home. And I know all of you have a heart, and I know you all have homes, and most of us have homes, but we do living paycheck by check. I'm in the verge of going homeless because I lost my job for advocating for people. And I did that. I did lose my job for speaking out for people, but that's not gonna prevent me. A couple of days before Cornelius' death, we were just in a meeting to set up for Martin Luther King Day. We were setting up the march and what are we gonna do, and we stand up and we chanted Cornelius. We chanted his name on Martin Luther King. We said justice for Cornelius Taylor. We did say that. That was an honor. But I'm asking all of you, I know you have a job and this is your job. This is not my job. This is not our job because we don't have the funds to do it. And I know you are capable of doing that. So please, let's stop the sweep. Let's get them permanent home. Let's not give them like a time, like there's some kind of like garbage, the way he was bulldozed, like he was literally just died in his own home. And it was the worst death. And the mayor last week, he refused to get the letter from the mom, even just to get out and say my condolences. It doesn't matter how you feel. You get out and said, I'm sorry about this. We're gonna try to fix it. It's not about the color. It's about there's injustice for every race, for the color, for the people of gender. So we need to stop that as a community here. And I love living in Atlanta, but I'm tired of keep going to vigils and keep going to prayers, speaking up. But I'm not tired for not speaking. I will keep doing it. We are gonna keep doing it. Today, a lot of us didn't go to work. They miss a day of work to come in here. You guys have your job and your home to go back to. It's secure. So please, let's stop the sweep. Let's get a permanent home for all the homeless, and let's stop bulldozing them and put them in a home. Please put them in a home and treat them as a human being. Peace and love to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Willie Davis. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Cornelius Taylor's family. They are are preparing for his funeral services and they could not be here today, but I'd like to read a statement to you all. I also was asked that it be passed out to you, but the statement is as such. Dear Atlanta, to the citizens of Atlanta, we are deeply grateful for the outpouring of love and support you have shown us in the wake of this profound loss. Your solidarity and compassion have been a source of strength during this incredibly difficult time. We also want to extend our gratitude to the organizers, advocates, and community members who have committed to ensuring that Cornelius's death will not be in vain. We firmly believe that the most meaningful way to honor Cornelius's life is through systematic change, change that addresses the policies and procedures impacting our unhoused brothers and sisters. We're calling for an immediate end to the sweeping of villages and encampments where Atlanta's unhoused residents live. These actions uproot lives, disrupt fragile stability, and destroy the little that many have left. Instead, we urge city leaders to prioritize permanent housing solutions as the first step before taking measures that displace these vulnerable individuals. It is our hope that the legislative discussions happening today will lead to profound and lasting change in public policy, setting a precedent for humane treatment, support, and love for the unhoused. Atlanta has long been recognized as a beacon of hope, a citadel for civil rights, and a place where dreams can flourish. As the family of Cornelius Taylor, we ask that Atlanta remain true to his legacy by becoming a city where every person, regardless of their current circumstances, can dare to dream and find a path to dignity and stability. We invite all of you to join us in celebrating Cornelius' life at his homegoing service on Monday, February the 3rd at 11 a.m. at historic Ebenezer Baptist Church. Until then, may God bless and keep each of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Danny Corwick. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for your time today. I would also like to personally thank Liliana, who was at the vigil. I would like to take a moment of silence. I know we have a couple of folks that are taking notes, that are on their computers, that are on their phones, and I would like to just take a moment of silence for Cornelius. May we never be desensitized to the monstrosity and the entirely needless and preventable tragedy that happened to him. Thank you. Atlanta was named the most educated city in the United States in 2024. We live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and I refuse to believe that this is an unsolvable problem that we do not have the solutions to. There's a reason that some of the largest companies in the entire world come to Atlanta. We have so much talent, so much drive, vigor, history. Atlanta, in my opinion, is the most special city in the entire world. We know the solutions to houselessness. It's just a matter of making it a priority and putting our money where we know it needs to go. I would like to speak in favor of resolutions 25R 37228 and 25R 3086. If I cannot appeal to your humanity today, let me appeal to your baseline and your budget. The most cost-effective way to address homelessness is to provide people with housing, period, end of story. A 2007 study based in LA found that counties which implemented supportive housing saved about 20% rather than relying on law enforcement and emergency room visits. We know that this works. Study after study after project have shown similar results, if not greater results than this. It's time to prioritize these policies and ensure that what happened to Cornelius Taylor never, ever happens again. Atlanta is better than this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ron Shakir. You have 3 minutes.
Ron Shakir, Southwest Atlanta. Atlanta, that special place. Atlanta was the first city in the country to demolish Atlanta was the first city in the country to build public housing. It represented schools of the future. Although the first public housing was occupied by a majority of Caucasian brothers and sisters. But for sure, the need could no longer be neglected, and African Americans filled how many public housing there were? 7, 9? I don't know right now, I'm not on that page. However, housing is the foundation of family. Housing is the foundation of an organized movement to go to elementary school, to go to middle school, to go to high school, to graduate and go to college and graduate. Housing is essential. It's people who have sat in these seats and people who have lived and walked in this city that have influenced the whole world and other political processes. I think of C.T. Martin, but everybody know Dr. Martin Luther King, what his voice was as far as human dignity, freedom, and justice. It was centered around housing. Was it a crime to create public housing? Why was the city of Atlanta need to be the first to demolish all their public housing, Mr. Westmoreland? Because it's connected to our education systems. Does our education system mean anything? With the rate of privatization, it doesn't, but with the breakup of communities are being lost because of housing, lack of housing. Perry Homes, Carver Homes, Jordanland, East Lake Meadows, all these communities don't matter? Well, they run into each other. They come together at a public place, of public schools, get to know each other, and they become leaders, and they get elected. Or Shirley Franklin, or Maynard Jackson get elected. Where are the voices, the strong voices that stands up for housing? The fact that this young man got ran over, sleeping, how ungodly process could that take place in? How did that work? Where there wasn't nobody out in front that's clearing the path? Did nobody know the history of the fact that people were sleeping here that was homeless? The fact is, we have lost our sensitivity. We lose our sensitivity and we lose our awareness. The fact is, we cannot close our eyes to the injustice of the housing and destroying public and closing public housing, and we need to go back and return to public housing because public housing mattered.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Erica Mead. Good to see you, Erica.
Yes, how are you? It's good to be here. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
I'm here today with the Cornelius Taylor Coalition, and I'm joining a lot of other people in this room to demand that the sweeps really do stop permanently. It's honestly not enough to stop the sweeps and delay the sweeps for only 30 days. Because really, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, he said, justice delayed is actually justice denied, and we are here today to carry on his legacy. When I think of sweeps in Atlanta, I think of on Bell Street under the I-85 overpass. A lot of people are sleeping there, and over the summer they sweep that. But if you go back to that place, if you go back to that overpass, you're gonna find a lot of people are still sleeping there. A lot of people are still, God forbid, using the bathroom on the streets. They're still, you know, sleeping there, and essentially, let's look at the proof in the pudding. It doesn't work. If y'all are the housing committee, what y'all need to do as somebody who y'all represent is let's see the study that sweeps work. That's y'all's job. If y'all can't provide actual facts and actual data that sweeps work, then why are you fighting for it? I understand that y'all have private business interest but at the end of the day, the interest that y'all need to really look at is the working class people. I'm a member of a union, the Union of Southern Service Workers. A lot of our members work at Waffle House, at Wendy's, and a lot of my fellow union members sleep in cars, they sleep in hotels. How many of y'all sleep in a hotel? None of y'all, I don't know y'all's history, but are y'all sleeping in a hotel right now? Are y'all afraid to open your door? Are y'all afraid to let your kids play outside in the parking lot because you don't know if that next gunshot is gonna hit them? We need action. And let's remember, y'all, we voted y'all in. This is not some permanent seat that y'all are in right now. We will get fed up and we will vote y'all out, because at the end of the day, working class people move this country, we move this world, and we move this society. We're moving for Cornelius Taylor, and we will vote in honor of Cornelius Taylor. We will be at the polls, and when we're there, we'll make sure that if y'all don't pass this, y'all ain't gonna come in here and sit in y'all seats. Y'all are gonna be at home. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker for today is Afimo. Sorry, brother.
I am Afemo Omami. Now, I know some of you because I've worked with you. Councilman Boone, you've been a good partner. I appreciate you, your family. My father-in-law, Hosea Williams, groomed me and raised me up for such a time. So I know your heart. Matt, I know you. You've worked with me. I only know Liliana from the signs when she's running and whatever, but I don't really know you. I don't know you, Jason, but I know Andrea, Joe Boone, one of the greatest heroes of our city.
That's right.
So y'all know what the deal is. Now, who your allegiance to is the question. Are you with us or against us? Now, all the years of my friendship, it doesn't mean it identifies you as who you are with the movement we have. I need you to step forward and make it clear what side you are really on, and not be pressured by the powers that be to make decisions about your own future. Put all of that aside and put this man in front of you. If it was your kinfolk, if it was your loved one, what would you want for him? I want the truth to come out, transparency, and let it be known to the community of Atlanta what really happened. Don't demonize this man or with some reports. That's always the case. Come on, you can be more creative than that. I'm holding you accountable. I love you. We've been feeding people in this city, but do you think that's something we get great pleasure out of? It's heartbreaking to keep doing the same thing over and over, going under the bridges, feeding the people, giving them the clothes, rent assistance, utility assistance, 54 years. We started it because Hosea Williams saw a man eating out of the garbage can right up from Dr. King's office. What an insult, what a slap in the face of a great hero like Martin Luther King Jr. And here the man's eating out of a garbage can when he gave his life. That's how this situation feels.
That's how it feels.
That's exactly how this feels. What an insult to these powers that be, that gave us great impetus to go forward. Yes. The Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the Ralph David Abernathy's, yes, the Julian Barnes, C.T. Vivian, John Lewis. Yes. I can keep naming them, Eric Terrell, on and on and on. So we're not going to stop. Councilman, you know me, you know us. We're not going to stop. Andrea, you know what we're going to do. We're going to press forward regardless. We don't care about the rest of this stuff. We're going to stay on this. So I need to know you're either with us or you're not. Then I can deal with you accordingly. Because we can't play around with all this right now. This is life and death. Show justice by what you're going to do for this man's family and honor his name. I expect to see you at his homegoing at Ebenezer. Then I'm gonna know a lot about you then, and I expect everybody else in here to be there with us as well. Do not disappoint us. You're the children of heroes. Don't disappoint us. You know the legacy that's on you.
Yes.
Do not disappoint us.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that signed up for public comment today. I just would encourage you all to stick around. We have 2 pieces of legislation that we'll be discussing where we try to address the way the city has been handling encampment closures. So if you are able to stick around, please do. 3. Okay. So that does take us to presentation section of our agenda. Atlanta Housing oh, now we're ready. Okay, we were going to delay that, but now we're ready for the Atlanta Housing quarterly update.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, council members, my name is Dwayne Vaughn. I serve as Chief Operating Officer for the Atlanta Housing Authority. I bring you greetings from our transformational leader, Terry Lee, who is working on some other matters at this point. And we are pleased to provide a quarterly presentation of what Atlanta Housing has done in its last quarter. As you see, we always like to ground what we're doing in the people that we serve. And so you see there's about almost 2,700 households that are being served. There's a great percentage of those, 97% are very low income. The figure that I like to always put in front of everyone is 61% of our households that we serve make $17,000 or less. And so we believe that we are serving some of the most vulnerable citizens that we have in the city. You'll see, we move to the next one, you see that we sort of think about our service in 3 large categories of individuals. We think about working families and how we can provide entrepreneurial and other work-related opportunities for them so that they can be economically secure. We also think about our youth. In our youth, we think about 2 sort of programs that we're very, very proud of this past year. We gave out about 18,000 plus books to youth. The thought is to have youth have their own libraries and therefore to create their imaginations and to give them ownership of these books. So we gave out about 18,000 books to families. And we're looking for more books to give to families so they can build robust libraries. The other program that we really want to focus, toward the end of the year, we had a Santa for a Day. And that's where individuals would write letters to Santa about what it is they would want. And then we would provide the gifts for those families and deliver them. And sometimes the gifts that we were able to deliver were the only gifts that were under the Christmas tree or the holiday tree for folks. And so we're really excited about that. And that gives us an opportunity to touch families more directly and especially touch our youth. And the last picture you see is for our seniors and aging well. Our seniors, we served about 20,500 visits for those seniors. We do case management, we do in-home services. The thought is to have seniors age with dignity in place. And so we are excited about that. We don't do a presentation without letting everyone know what our strategic goals are. And so you see those goals. I think you've seen that before, but we keep putting that both in front of us and in front of everyone else because we want to be centered. If you'll notice that we look at goals number 2, 3, and 4 as our people goals. We look at our create and preserve goal as goal number 1. We look at our transparency goal as goal number 5. And we look at our operations goal as goal number 6. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. we are happy to report that we have preserved and created some 6,590 units. If you recall, Atlanta Housing is sort of the tip of the spear of the mayor's initiative to create 20,000 units. We have said to the mayor and to the city that we will create 10,000 of those units. And you can see here, we are at 66% of our goal. And so we're really happy about that and happy about what's going on. If you look at the next page, am I going too fast? Okay. If you look at the next page, this is our strategic dashboard. And this was, if you notice, our goal number 5 talked about how we should tell our story a little bit more. And so we look at that as our transparency goal. So someone can go on our website right now, look in plans and reports, look at our strategic plan update, and click on these numbers and see. So I have to apologize. This chart is a little bit dated. It is November's chart, but if you go today, you will see the same numbers that we had shown before. And we have the different categories. The chart is interactive, and therefore you can click on it and get details as to each of those numbers. We are particularly excited about what has happened under the leadership of Terry Lee this year. Those of you that know Terry know that she has a strong sense of urgency and has pushed our agency to have that same sense of urgency. We have closed more transactions in this past year than we have closed for the previous perhaps 10 years or so. And so we are excited about what's happening. Here you see some of the development surge. You see the former Ramada Ramada Plaza Hotel that we purchased earlier in August. You see the Heritage at Westlake. You see sort of projects all over the place, and we are excited that we are able to show projects and show opportunities for families to live in A-class quality settings. We look at this surge a little bit more, and just on this next page, we see about 689 total units of projects. It includes Herndon 3, which is one of our high-profile particular projects. It includes Bowen Homes, the first phase of that, which is our choice neighborhoods, and we are in partnership with the city and many other entities to redevelop that entire tract. It includes Inglewood, which is, of course, adjacent to the Beltline. And so we're excited about these 3 high-profile opportunities. And then we have Stone, Hogan's, and Villas, and you see that. So we are excited about that surge. But when we go to what's happening, that was through 2024, December. But coming up in the first half of this, we have an opportunity for 8 more closings. And closings are exciting, but what we are really trying to do is make sure that things are happening every month, every quarter, so that there are more housing opportunities for our vulnerable. You'll see that Sylvan Hills is one of the highlighted ones, and the first phase of Civic Center will be developed will be closed in the first quarter. So we are particularly pleased with that. When we look at what's coming up in 2025, this slide sort of talks about that. It talks about 700 new affordable units, talks about 1,000 total units, talks about almost 500 home flex units. It talks about down payment assistance, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but about 200 families will get an opportunity to get some of Atlanta Housing's down payment assistance. And then it talks about preservation. We think that the down payment assistance is a very, very important program because it creates generational wealth for families that might not have had that opportunity before. And so we anticipate, well, in 2024, we had 236 first-time home buyers, and we expended about $5.15 or $5.2 million toward that. Our home buyer assistance program allows people to stack the home buyer assistance of $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 with other programs in the area. So that would include Invest Atlanta's program and other entities that have programs. So we think that is a very, very important kind of thing. Also looking at what's coming up, we see the Stadium Hotel, which is the Ramada Hotel. We see that Bowen has another 7 remaining phases, and we hope to close another phase there. Civic Center has 7 remaining phases, and we are looking to preserve some 650 units. So what we want you to take away from our presentation is that we are accelerating our opportunity to provide affordable housing resources to families in Atlanta. And that would be our quarterly report for your consideration.
Thank you. Appreciate your report, COO Vaughn. I know we do have some questions from our colleagues. Councilman Bakhtiari was first in the queue, so I'll let her get started.
Thank you. Nope.
There you go.
Apparently I can't push a button. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Had a couple of questions. Can y'all hear me okay? The mic feels kind of quiet. Okay. First, I was hoping, and I wanted to thank you for the presentations. First, I was hoping that you could both define affordability more in depth, both preserved and created.
So
the pieces on your presentation where you say that you're building affordable units and also preserving affordable units, I was hoping you could better define the term affordable in those instances.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
So affordable is, by HUD's definition, is 80% of AMI. However, most of our units on the preserve side are probably at 30% or below.
Okay.
On the created side, if they have tax credits or anything, they're about 60% and below. And of course, remember that no matter where the units are, we are paying 70% and the family is paying 30% toward the rent.
Understood. And the piece on the Civic Center, obviously the neighborhood is very excited to see that something is finally going to happen there. Could you elaborate on the timeline of where we are? Because the downtown NPU is eager to better understand.
We think it's going to be before June. We are pushing that perhaps we can even have it in April or May, but we are talking
for us to break ground, or I'm sorry, to
have the financial closing of the first phase.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
We are pushing the developer, or I guess that's the wrong word. We are inquiring of the developer weekly as to what it's looking like and how we can jumpstart that. And we are aware that the community is very, very interested in less talk and more action.
Impassioned. The Ramada, I was hard. I mean, this is, and forgive me, maybe I'm out of the loop. This was, the Ramada that is, we're talking about the Ramada that is just adjacent to the highway.
Yes, we are.
So what exactly is happening with the Ramada?
Well, we have an RFP out right now for a development partner. And what we hope to see is some commercial on the ground floor, and we hope to see apartments above.
Yes, because, I mean, of course, all the programming, this is all fantastic. I think my biggest question is how do we scale up? Because the 200, and I know that this is that's a multi-partnered question. That's not just AHA, but I suppose my question is like the down payment assistance, all of these things. Obviously, the leading cause of displacement in Atlanta is energy burden. So obviously, seeing the assistance with the additional fees to keep people in their homes and to help them wealth build is all fantastic. I guess my question is, how do we scale up those numbers into the thousands instead of the hundreds?
We think that a partnership with this committee, a partnership with the mayor, and a partnership with other housing entities will help. We also would like to see our corporate citizens help us a little bit more on the housing side. We're going to get to our 10,000, and then we think that we probably need a stronger acquisition program to buy some units that are already on the ground that can be rehabbed and easily put back into focus. But we are interested in any innovative idea as to how we can scale up, and are keeping our ears open with our colleagues across the nation to see what they are doing. And we are shamelessly borrowing every good idea.
Thank you. And I think one personal question I had before I got to my last question was, has all AHA land in Sweet Auburn been transferred? Is that something you know off the top of your head? And if not, could you get me that information?
Let me get that information to you.
And then my final question is, obviously, we've seen the executive orders that are coming down from this administration with the freezing of certain loans. I would imagine that's going to have some impact on your work. Is that something that you, I mean, obviously, I'm not asking you to fortune tell because we don't know what's going to happen in the coming weeks or months. Is AHA prepared, or is this planning, do you all foresee this affecting the work deeply and perhaps, unfortunately, delaying our building of housing even further?
We see it as very, very concerning. We have been looking at it all morning. Some of our team has been on the White House press conference at 1 o'clock.
I know that you were delayed to this because of the fact that y'all had to be on those calls because of the executive orders coming down.
And so we, as you know, get a huge percentage of our funds from HUD. We understand that the order affects HUD. However, it's unclear as to how it's actually going to be implemented. And so we are preparing for the worst, hoping for the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. That concludes my questions. Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Vaughn, for an amazing presentation. That's a perfect segue for what I was going to ask. I just want, but for the record, I want to compliment Terry Lee and the way that she has led this new day at the Housing Authority and has put new energy into developing these projects. You know, I'm a huge Terry Lee fan. But my question goes to her predecessor came to this committee and told us something disturbing, is that the HUD regulations did not allow the Atlanta Housing Authority, any housing authority in the country, to build temporary housing or transitional housing for those who are unhoused. Is that still the case?
That's our understanding, that there are some limitations. We are waiting for the confirmation of the new HUD secretary to revisit some of that.
Now, given what you've just discussed with my colleague, what do you all see in the tea leaf as far as, you know, because cities across the country have been now pressuring, or there was pressure during the lead up to Election Day to have something done with these rules, right? To make them more accommodating so that transitional housing, temporary housing, housing shelters, that HUD could take that on, or rather the housing authorities that operate underneath HUD's rules could take them on. And so in this meeting, I know you're just coming fresh from this meeting today, but are you all getting any indication that they're going to be altering any of these rules to make it more service-oriented for what is actually taking place in reality on the ground?
Well, the Secretary nominee Turner has said that one of the goals of the new administration is to reduce regulations. We are happy to hear that said, but we are waiting to see which regulations will actually get reduced.
Okay, so let's do a quick hypothetical. So if the rules get relaxed and the housing authority is free to go back to its original purpose, which is to provide public housing that people can't provide for, not just mixed income, would the primary funding for that still come from HUD, or do you have any idea of how you all would develop that?
The primary funding would still come from HUD, but we are hoping that presentations like this showing our forward progress will help the charitable community and the business community invest in this enterprise of affordable housing.
Okay, so, and for the current projects that you have and existing projects that you have, will the portion of funds that don't come from HUD, since you, I guess primarily now almost all of it is exclusively mixed income, that money goes into a revolving loan fund for other projects or to pay down bonds or debts?
Not really. Most of the money is allocated to our development pipeline, so or to preserving units. So all of it's not going to mixed finance. We have a number of projects that are 100% affordable. And so we will be looking at our development pipeline and funding that.
So basically one project the profit from that project rolls into something else.
Sort of. Yeah, council member, I wish I could say we have profits from our projects. That's not usually what happens. We are usually investing whatever we could have received in a return to help subsidize that particular project. So,
I don't want to monopolize, but I do want to talk about the old Stadium Hotel.
Yes, sir.
And so you all are going to, the goal for it is to be 100% affordable?
We are thinking the goal will be for a senior building, largely affordable. I'm not sure 100%, but the majority affordable. And so we're waiting for proposals from various developers to see what that mix might look like.
Okay. And so you all are the exclusive owners of that property now. Prior to that, during the pandemic, the city had a lease on that property, and I think it was almost 700 families that we were able to transition off of the streets of Atlanta into that property, into other way stations, service, and into some permanent housing for the majority of the persons that we were housed there. Are you all still seeking to acquire properties like that in the city?
We are. And acquire, we're also looking at potentially acquiring those properties that were tax credits, and those tax credits are expiring so that they don't go market. So we are looking at all of that.
Well, I'd like to make a suggestion, because when the conversion, when Atlanta began to do mixed use, meaning Atlanta Housing Authority, mixed use developments in the 90s, it was supposed to be an answer to concentrated poverty in the public housing space. But the greater amount of poverty that was in Atlanta was actually held in privately owned apartment complexes. That's where the majority of those who were impoverished, who actually lived in Atlanta, lived. It was privately owned, not the public housing that AHA owned. And so, are you all looking at any of these privately held apartment complexes where still today, majority, a lot of Atlantans live, where, we have constantly, and Councilwoman Boone has great expertise in this, and so does Mr. Winston, where you've got privately held apartment complexes, don't keep them up to standard, they take the money, don't fix, don't repair, and there's all types of horror stories related to them. Are you all targeting any of those for purchase or acquisition? Because as an authority, you can use eminent domain.
We have not used our eminent domain power. We would think about that in cooperation with what the city desired. We are looking at some of those properties. The challenge that we are having is the owners want an astronomical price for a property that's not worth what they're trying to get, but we are looking at those kinds of opportunities because we think that's the quickest way to turn a unit and to bring a family into compliance with decent, safe, and sanitary housing.
Well, a redevelopment plan and eminent domain for a God-given purpose can do a lot. I'll withdraw. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Bond, sorry. Any other questions from colleagues? I just want to thank you for your presentation today. Just thinking about the Ramada, which is in my district, 450 Capitol Avenue. I used to call that home when I was a student at Georgia State University. And subsequently, we was displaced from there. So I'm glad to see the full circle moment here where I could potentially retire there if it becomes senior housing. And so just want y'all to keep up the good work that you're doing. Let us know how we can help anyway. I know you all have a very uncertain future as it pertains to HUD right now, but please keep the council abreast of any news that's coming out. So especially as we start going into budgeting season and figure out what we can do from our end, from a legislative standpoint, kind of supplement some of the things that you all are doing. So just please keep us up to date. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you. I also just wanted to say I'm heartened by projects like the Ramada at the Civic Center, because I think the biggest thing we need is be building. We are doing great things in terms of these smaller projects, absolutely, and we know that land is limited in our city. Wherever though we can build to scale, I hope that AHA, I hope that we as a city, I hope every organization. The smaller pieces are fantastic because we obviously want these housing in the neighborhoods that people want to live in where they grew up. Because we all know that when you liquidate the culture of a city, you lose its identity. And then the history of our city stays in these people that we're trying to keep. But I really do hope that we take more opportunities to build to scale. And I would love to better understand in my next meeting with AHA what plots of land we could be looking at to build, something like the Ramada, how many rooms are in there if we were managed to scale that whole thing, or, obviously with the Civic Center, what we're seeing with the AMC former property. These are all huge opportunities. So I hope that we continue to take on more projects that allow us to build more units. And I also just wanted to say to the public, because a lot of people are here asking how they can help. And this is less to do with you, so I apologize, is flagging that we are in legislative session at the Capitol until late March, early April. Please help us. I go down there and I speak to my legislators, even as a council member. I hope y'all do the same, because we are also seeing increases in expanding 1013s, which are involuntary holds in California and New York, and those are considered progressive states, so we know it's going to come to us. So please go, because we're going to see more attacks on organizations like AHA and others with this administration. So I encourage you all to help us, to help me, frankly, and others, go down there and help lobby, because they could tell us tomorrow what color we should paint our bathrooms. So we need to be working as teams to also tackle it from the state level as well. That's all I wanted to say. That's my soapbox, and I'll be quiet now.
Thank you so much. We would be remiss if we didn't thank the council for your help in some of our projects, especially the infrastructure opportunities that you have provided to us. So thank you for partnering with us to serve our most vulnerable.
Thank you. And colleagues, I'm going to ask Courtney English to come up to speak towards some of the freezes that we're seeing now, federal grants and loans. So I don't know if you want to speak to some of the information that we're hearing kind of breaking.
Yeah, absolutely. The mayor wanted me to offer the opportunity to respond to questions as best we can about the freezes. It's certainly a pleasure to be with you today. Obviously, the administration is aware of the freezes. What we want you to know is that those freezes are, in fact, having a current impact. They are vast in scope. Currently, as we stand here right now, organizations that are currently funded by the federal government don't have access to the portal that allows them to draw down disbursement funds. And so that's everything from Atlanta Housing Authority to Partners for Home to individual nonprofits. We've got reports that affects Head Start programs and other early education programs as well. We are closely monitoring the situation. We've been on calls all morning, essentially all day with all of our partners. We've convened the whole of government to get a deeper assessment of the potential impacts. But as our COO from Atlanta Housing said, he was nice about it. Concerning is the best way to say it. Gravely distressing is how I would describe it. And so we thought it important that you know that. We candidly thought it important that the public know that as well. We are seeing reports from the White House saying that this program won't be affected or that program won't be affected. Well, they are being affected. And so there are a number of programs that rely on drawdown schedules that are, some are monthly, some are bi-monthly, some are weekly. And so organizations are facing not being able to make payroll. Payroll is usually done on Wednesday. Folks who get paid on Friday, so on and so forth. And so you all need to know that and advocate as best as you can to federal, state, and partners, and we are doing the same.
Quick question for you. I know that just early news that I saw said that the federal government was advising different departments to provide, additional feedback around their budgets and some of their allocations. Did they give any indication of when that may be due or when they may get, kind of respond to some of that feedback that they're getting from the different departments?
So I do not, I'm not aware of that answer. I'll get that information for you. What we have said is that we want the mayor's asked for a full assessment to be complete for all of the city governments, and we mean Big C. That's all of our quasi-governmental organizations, airport, anything that has any federal impact at all, done in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Okay. Any other questions coming from colleagues? Councilman Bakhtiari.
I suppose, thank you for coming. I suppose my questions are around some of our more immediate infrastructure projects. I'm guessing I don't even know where to start with my questions, quite frankly, but I'm guessing we have a lot of infrastructure projects on our plate. How are we how are we foreseeing, to quote my colleague, Councilmember Bond, how are you reading the tea leaves in terms of what we might expect?
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a longer conversation. What the federal government has said today is what we know what has been said publicly is that they're going to take a deep dive, a deep look at funding generally, and that funding is anticipated to last. I'm sorry, that freeze is anticipated to last to the early part of February. What we do know is that we need folks to absolutely make decisions in unlocking that portal as fast as humanly possible, because it does have a very real impact on lives. And so we are monitoring the situation. We'll, as soon as we know more, we'll deliver that to you. But right now, as it stands today, if you had a drawdown due to pay rent, if you had a drawdown due to cover operational costs, if you had a drawdown due, if you're a nonprofit and you have to make payroll, you are currently locked out of the portal. It's essentially the federal bank account, and you open it and you draw down funds. That portal is as of right now closed.
Understood. What does this mean about projects we already got approved, the grants that we've already received that we're, getting money for still around projects like the Stitch, et cetera? What are we, 'cause I'm guessing that's a payout over time. So what does that mean?
We're still assessing the larger scale projects. However, what we do know is that the current, if you drew down against that budget prior to today, that's how much money you have, and absent additional funding or them unlocking the portal, you no longer have funds to pay. And so there are entities, some of our partners, Atlanta Housing is one of them, for example, that had a drawdown earlier this month. And so they can continue their operations through the month, but that's 4 more days, essentially. And so it is bad. And so as it relates to the development projects, they're in the same boat. And so if Invest Atlanta or Atlanta Housing was required to do that drawdown, we no longer have the capacity to do that.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I'll just reiterate comments from Councilmember Bakhtiari. General Assembly is in session across the street. So if there's any other better place to go make some noise right now about how you feel about some of what you're hearing now in real time, I think that would be a good location and destination to go make your voice be heard. So we appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, council members.
Thank you. Thank you. This does take us to the communications section of our agenda today.
Sorry. 25C0005, a communication from Danielle Hampton, Chair, Audit Committee, submitting the Performance Audit Report, Moving Atlanta Forward 2024 Annual Review.
Thank you. Ms. Jones.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Okay. I'm Ijik Jones, and I'm here to present the results of our 2024 Annual Review of the Moving Atlanta Forward Infrastructure Program. The audit team for this project included Michaela James and Christopher Sheffelton as auditors and myself as the audit supervisor. We conducted this audit as required by Ordinance 22-01369, requiring the city auditor to conduct an annual review of financials and project delivery for the Moving Atlanta Forward program. This is our second audit of the program. We released our first audit in December 2023, and that audit primarily focused on the project delivery framework. Our objectives were to assess the status of our previous recommendations, as well as assess whether controls were in place to ensure that projects adhere to budget and scope and schedule requirements, and to assess whether work progressed equitably across city council districts. We focused primarily on the project delivery framework, as well as projects scheduled to start in 2023 or 2024. And we reviewed relevant legislation, bond documents, program budgets, paid amounts, and the program controls established in the strategic delivery plan, as well as the program's dashboard data for project status and accuracy. This slide shows Exhibit 5 on page 7 of the report. City Council adopted a strategic delivery plan for the program in January 2023, intended to establish increased oversight, accountability, resident participation, and a commitment to improve project delivery. The plan establishes a project management framework and identifies the role of each city department involved in delivering the program. It includes monitoring and control measures to ensure projects comply with schedule, budget, and scope. The plan also describes the project life cycle, as shown in the exhibit, that establishes 5 phases for project completion, including 2 phases at the beginning that have been renamed from activation and pre-construction to planning and scoping and engineering and design, respectively. Exhibits 1 and 2 on page 2 of the report show the funding breakdown of the program. An ordinance authorized the $750 million program, funded in part by T-SPLOST for transportation capital projects and in part by 2 general obligation bonds approved by voters, totaling about $400 million. The horizontal infrastructure bond will be used for parks, trails, and transportation projects, and the vertical infrastructure bond will be used for buildings and building renovations for public safety and parks facilities. The bonds also include $36 million in council discretionary funds that council members can direct towards neighborhood projects. The program is administered through the mayor's office, but the Departments of Transportation, Enterprise Asset Management, and Parks and Recreation directly oversee the projects. This slide summarizes our findings. Half of the projects that have started are still in the planning stage, and if funding remains unallocated, the scope of future projects may be impacted. The strategic delivery plan controls are not being implemented consistently across departments, and improvements to the program dashboard are needed to improve its usefulness to stakeholders. The strategic delivery plan has 202 projects, each scheduled to begin in different calendar years, set out through 5 batches. These batches were designed using criteria such as needs assessments, shovel readiness, and funding availability. As of August 2024, all Batch 1 projects and the majority of Batch 2 projects had started. This is Exhibit 7 on page 14 of the report. Of the 202 projects planned, 134 have begun as of August 2024. All Batch 1 projects have started, and all but 16 of the Batch 2 projects had started as of August 2024. Exhibit 8 on page 16 of the report shows that as of August 2024, most of the projects in batches 1 and 2 have not progressed beyond the planning and scoping phase. This is the first project phase and involves assigning a project manager, preparing initial planning documentation, and establishing initial budget, scope, and schedule, and risks and responsibilities. All of Transportation's Batch 1 and Batch 2 projects have started, but most have not progressed beyond the planning and scoping phase. Of the 11 projects managed by Enterprise Asset Management, 9 have started and 2 are in the construction phase. 2 of the department's Batch 1 and 2 projects haven't begun. One is an arts project that will be managed by the Office of Cultural Affairs, and the other is an undefined public safety project. Of the Parks and Recreations projects, 53 projects scheduled for Batches 1 and 2, 53 projects were scheduled for the first 2 batches, and 39 have begun, and most are in construction and closeout. But as of August, Parks and Recreation had 14 projects in Batch 2 that had not yet started. As of November, 1 of those projects has started, but the other 13 have not. If the projects don't start as scheduled, costs could likely increase and citizens may lose confidence in the program. As of November 2024, the 2 deemed projects that had not started have not started yet. Exhibit 9 on page 17 of the report shows the spending as of August 2024. In August, about $47 million in planned projects funds had been spent. And as of January 2025, $53 million in planned project funds had been spent. Some of the T-SPLOST projects were not in Oracle, the city's financial management system, including 16 projects that were in batches 1 and 2. Transportation staff shared that a previous staff member had paused fund allocation to reassess project batches, but the hold has now been removed. All projects managed by Enterprise Asset Management are in Oracle with allocated funds, but the Parks and Recreation funds are not divided by project. They're only in Oracle, organized by the type of fund: horizontal, vertical, and land acquisition. Staff in both DEEM and Parks expressed concerns about the budgets in the strategic delivery plan being outdated and said that some projects may be underfunded. The departments have not yet established criteria with which to prioritize projects if sufficient funding issues arise, and if earlier projects incur budget overruns, the city may have to decrease the scope or cancel later projects in the program. These are exhibits 10 and 11 on pages 19 and 20 in the report. We reviewed project spending by council district. The list of projects in the program identifies what council districts a project falls within. And for those that fall within multiple districts, we group these as multi-district. And those that address citywide services, such as citywide ADA ramps or citywide bus shelters, are labeled as citywide. In our analysis, we found that 45% of the spending was in districts 6, 8, and 9. And these districts have poverty rates ranging from 6 to 9%. But the districts receiving the least amount of spending are city council districts 2, 1, and 12, with poverty rates ranging from 9% to 28%. If the projects in city council districts with lower poverty rates have incurred more spending for projects earlier in the program, the later projects that fall within districts with higher rates of poverty may end up being scoped down or canceled entirely. The Strategic Delivery Plan provides guidelines and controls for the Moving Atlanta Forward infrastructure program, including required documentation intended to ensure that projects stick to budget, scope, and schedule. We reviewed the available documentation to determine whether departments were completing and storing the required documentation as described in the exhibit on the slide. We tested a random sample of projects from each department and found that the departments are not consistently using or creating the documentation or storing it in a centralized information system as required by the plan. We sampled 14 transportation projects in the planning and scoping and engineering and design phases. These are the first 2 phases. Of the 14 projects, 8 had a RACI matrix identifying responsibilities, 2 had risk registers, and 2 had project management plans. We sampled 2 projects in the construction phases and did not locate any notices to proceed or construction daily reports for these projects. But transportation did prepare their monthly schedule variance reports as required. Of the 8 deemed projects that we sampled, 7 had completed their RACI matrix, but we were unable to locate risk registers for these projects. We found 8 project management plans, but 3 did not have a completed risk section. And 1 project is in construction, but did not have a notice to proceed stored in the files. Lastly, we sampled 8 parks projects in the construction phase, and of these projects, all had a RACI matrix, but no risk registers. All 8 projects had a project management plan, but none had a completed risk section. And 7 notices to proceed were provided of the 8, and 5 had construction daily reports. DEEM and DPR did not prepare monthly schedule variance reports regularly. DEEM had developed templates for all projects, but had not updated them, and DPR had monthly schedule variance reports for some projects outside of our sample, but none within. The Department of Parks and Recreation did not establish project level funding in Oracle. As I mentioned, they set up the funding in Oracle with into 3 funds: the land acquisition, vertical funds, and horizontal funds. The Strategic Delivery Plan states that to assist with trackability within Oracle, the program should include funding levels down to the project and category type. Transportation and DEEM both manage their project level spending directly through Oracle, but the Parks team tracks their project level spending manually in an Excel spreadsheet, which poses a risk for data entry and calculation errors. If project level finances are not maintained within Oracle, monitoring the project budgets and maintaining program transparency become more difficult. And we found calculation errors in the spreadsheet. We also found that some purchase orders were used across several projects, further impacting the integrity of the data and the transparency. The program would benefit from central oversight to help ensure compliance with the Strategic Delivery Plan. Our 2023 audit identified inconsistent processes across the 3 departments, including noncompliance with the program's Strategic Delivery Plan and opportunities for improvement in program management. A centralized oversight position with the program would help to ensure consistency in use of proper documentation, financial management, and tracking of soft costs. Exhibit 14 on page 32 of the report shows the Moving Atlanta Forward dashboard. The dashboard includes project status, budget, encumbrances, paid amounts, and reporting data required by the Strategic Delivery Plan. The Department of Transportation developed some guidance for updating the dashboard per our last audit's recommendations, but there's no formalized process for data validation other than the Transportation's Program Controls Team validation of their own data and running sanity checks on data provided by Parks and Recreation and Enterprise Asset Management. We identified some accuracy errors and potential improvements for the dashboard. Currently, the available metric does not reflect the amount of funds left after the paid and committed amounts, but it reflects what is immediately available because the TSPOS funds are accrued annually. The dashboard also does not include project level expenditures, only budgets. And the dashboard also includes a chart that reports projects at risk, but there's no clear definition of when a project is reported as at risk on the dashboard. And so our recommendations were to maintain project budgets and schedule. We recommend that the chief operating officer develop decision criteria, including equity across council districts, to determine how funding will be prioritized if funding is limited, and ensure that departments are completing the required documentation in the strategic delivery plan. Assist the departments in developing a system and written procedures for tracking soft costs. Designate a central oversight position, such as a program manager, to oversee the program and compliance with the strategic delivery plan. Assist in developing detailed written data verification procedures to ensure dashboard accuracy. Ensure the program adjusts the available metric to reflect the projected funds minus paid and committed amounts. Ensure that the program add project level spending information to the dashboard and define a threshold for at-risk projects to communicate this on the dashboard. To monitor project budgets and maintain program transparency, we recommend the Commissioner of DPR create separate purchase orders for different Moving Atlanta Forward projects and avoid using one purchase order across multiple projects to improve financial management and transparency, and ensure that the department uses the Oracle P&G module to manage program finances at a project level when starting new projects going forward. That concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack there. And before my colleagues and I kind of get into that, I see our COO, Ms. LaShondra Burks, in the back. Just want to know if you want to come speak to the audit.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the CDHS Committee. LaShondra Burks, Chief Operating Officer for the City of Atlanta. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to come up and respond to the Moving Atlanta Forward audit that was just presented by our internal audit department. I would also like to give thanks to Amanda Noble and her team. They have worked closely with us side by side on this actual audit, where we have been able to provide them all of the documentation. We worked closely with them as they presented to us the 10 recommendations. And of course, you can see of the 10 recommendations, 8 of them are specifically to the Chief Operating Officer. And what we do know is that it is important because this project, the Moving Atlanta Forward project, spans across 3 different departments. It is important for it to be housed in the mayor's office versus in one particular department, even though it's spread across 3. And so we have agreed and partially agreed to one of the recommendations, but have agreed to all 10 in one way or another, and have provided our response that you would see in the report. I will say a couple of things, just to give you an update on a couple of things that we have done that partially made it in the report, but I wanted to make sure that we pull it out and communicate it out. As we have looked across Renew Atlanta as well as Moving Atlanta Forward, one of the things that we recently did was a task order and a contract with Jacobs, world-known engineering firm. So Jacobs is currently starting to oversee our Moving Atlanta Forward project while we keep Atkins on board because of their historical knowledge to serve as project managers for the Renew Atlanta projects. And so we have had kickoff meetings with Jacobs. I have personally met with their entire team and have expressed to them the importance and the need for the work and how it needs to be done. The good thing about Jacobs also is that they have done a lot of work at our airport, and you all are much aware of all of the projects at the airport that they have managed for us successfully. So we feel confident even in our pre-planning meetings that will prove to be a success in Moving Atlanta Forward as well. So wanted to make sure that you all had that information. And also, I mean, there are some projects that have moved recently that many of you have had an opportunity to be a part of. We have the ribbon cutting coming up for Fire Station 22 on Hollywood Road. We have the groundbreaking this Friday on Hollywood Road for Fire Station 26. Fire Station 30, we've already had the groundbreaking on Cleveland Avenue. The Joseph E. Lowry Complete Streets is started on time, on budget so far. And then all of the work that we have done together across Renew Atlanta and Moving Atlanta Forward on the Cascade Road project, which is now moving after we recently gave a report out to the community just within the last couple of weeks and had some positive feedback on the movement on that project. And so while we are accepting of this report and we will move forward with the implementation of it, specifically it being spearheaded out of the Chief Operating Officer's office, it is my hope and it is our plan that some of the movements that you have seen over the last few months, that will grow over the next few months as we move forward. I do want to make a comment about some of the districts that have seen more movement than others. Those very specific districts have CIDs, very active CIDs, where we have moved funding to for them to manage the projects. And the council districts where you're not seeing as much action, you will begin to see, but they do not have very strong CIDs, or they don't have them at all that could help us move some of the projects forward. And so I'm happy to take any questions, but I wanted you all to know some of the steps that we have taken thus far in order to make improvements, even as we were working alongside the auditor's office as they were finalizing this report.
Thank you, CEO Burks. Comments, questions from colleagues? Councilmember Bakhtiari.
It's like I'm always voted first. So one, I wanted to thank you, Ms. Noble. I know how your bandwidth of your team and what we ask of you. So very grateful to you all. Thank you. And don't worry, I'm working on those vacancies. Also wanted to ask on page, if I can find it.
So I have the report. That was my first time seeing the presentation. So if you're asking from the presentation, I don't have access to the presentation itself.
I was going to ask about just what, and I can show this to you. It's the current budget in Oracle, the SDP budget, paid, committed, total cost. So just going to ask if you could go into depth on what these buckets mean. That's all. And I can bring this to you because you'll be able to adjustments on it.
Sure. And what page is that on?
9.
Huh? Page 9? And you had a question, I'm sorry, Councilman.
If you could just explain, not the poverty rate, but the current budget, the SDP, just kind of going into what those two buckets mean versus paid, committed, and the total cost piece.
Right. And so what you see, I can definitely explain to you the current budget that's in Oracle.
Please.
That is the same dollar amount that was from the Moving Atlanta Forward original list. And so when we brought each of these projects before council, before the referendum went for a vote, we had estimated project costs there. And that is what actually has been put in Oracle. Ms. Noble? Sure, if you want to do the next one. Yeah.
Amanda Noble, City Auditor. Just to add clarity, so as COO explained, what the current budget is loaded into Oracle, then the SDP budget are the figures that were in the strategic delivery plan. And then paid and committed are also from Oracle. So paid are the figures actually paid, and committed, there's a PO. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And I know that Mr. English just came in and spoke to us, but I'm guessing some of the freezes some of the freezes that we're facing executively going to affect any of the distribution of the money that we're currently seeing?
That should not with these, because these were bonds that we had already issued. T-SPLOS comes in based on a penny. And so we will continue, we should be fine as it relates to this.
Thank you. I'm going to be taking that soundbite and sending it out to everyone who asks, so I appreciate it.
Okay, no.
And that concludes my questions for now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Westmoreland.
Sure. I think I have 3 comments more than questions. One is a thank you to the audit team. When we passed 22-0-1369 back in 2022, it was meant to help us kind of avoid the failures and mistakes that happened with Renew Atlanta and the first East Boston. So I appreciate y'all's efforts to try and keep us on track. Two, I do want to acknowledge that the reporting period for this ended in August of 2024. So it was, and why that's relevant to me at least is that it was less than 3 months after you took the role you now have. And it happened before changes in the procurement department and the Atlanta Department of Transportation Capital Delivery Office that I think will help make progress on what this audit highlights. But then my overall sentiment right now is this is debilitatingly demoralizing to be sitting here 3 years in and be where we are. So I am grateful that you are in your seat and that there are other changes coming in the seats that can help drive change, because it feels a little bit like we are walking right back into where we were in 2019 and 2020, and we've been trying to avoid that for so long. But I have a lot of confidence that you and your team, which were not really in place when this audit came out, will be able to help move us in a new direction.
Thank you, Councilmember, and I hope that you know that we are committed to it. I had the opportunity to engage with those who were on council before we did the referendum ad nauseum on the project list and the countless hours and times that we put into it. And all of the projects that are listed, we're going to make sure that we are far more equitable than we have been. As you may remember, one of the things that we did was that made sure that every council district had a minimum of $30 million worth of projects. And so you will see us move faster and harder on some of these projects. As I just mentioned, about 5 projects or 6 that are underway. Many of these have started within the last few months, and groundbreakings going forward. We have come up with some very more clear and strategic ways around how we prepare these projects as it relates to our design process, using a very new process that Jacobs uses on our airport projects. And so between that, changes in procurement, and how we coordinate better across the departments, you will begin to see more changes very fast.
Thank you. Councilman Barker.
I've had one more question that I forgot about earlier. I first want to piggyback off of what Councilmember Westmoreland said about, I think it's fair to give also a more accurate picture. Yes, these numbers are not where we want them to be, but I also know that we're on our 3rd commissioner in this administration, and that this commissioner had to build systems that were non-existent after our first commissioner of ATL DOT left. So I also think that that's worth noting, is that there were no systems in place, and he had to build them from scratch, and the entire team did. So I do want to note that, because that is no easy task to do with in an ever-changing climate, in an ever-changing bureaucratic climate. So the other question I wanted to ask was, I saw the recommendations, and I noted that our auditor said something about, direction and noting what priorities are. I know that those will primarily come down from your office, and so I wanted to ask, how will we be moving forward in prioritizing? And I know that you've done some cleaning up on some of our apps, because certain people were able to request things that were bogging down the system, and there's been a lot of cleanup there. But I was curious about how we'd be moving forward.
And so we will be working, many of the council members we have met with, or teams have met with, and kind of have a priority of the projects that they would like to see moving forward in their districts. Part of what Jacobs is doing now, especially with moving Atlanta forward, is going in, looking at that priority list and looking at the budgets, looking at what can be done, and then we will come back with a full list of how we will move forward, and we will be ready to present that. But that won't stop us from moving projects that are ready. As projects are ready, we will continue to move those forward as well.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And, I'll just say that from looking at it from a district lens, obviously when I saw the report, my initial reaction was, somewhat disheartening as well, just seeing, but also going back to the snapshot, seeing the changes that have been made since then. I do recognize that there were a lot of projects that have been stalled in District 1 that seem to be moving rapidly at this point right now, where we're having some very engaging meetings. It seems like we're getting into the shovel-ready phase for some of those projects. So I appreciate the time and effort that's been put in to make sure that these projects are starting to move forward. I'll also point out that this is a classic example of how the auditing process helps our city government run more efficiently. And that I'm very grateful for the audit team for putting this in front of us, putting this in front of a newly minted COO, so that we have the opportunity to make these type of changes and correct the ship, so to speak, on projects as we move forward, knowing that we're stewards of taxpayers' dollars on some of these big capital projects that need to be delivered. And so I'm appreciative of that, and thank you all for continuing to do this. I know we're going to have a couple of different times to be able to discuss this. Finance Executive Committee tomorrow. I know that Parks and Recs is, I'm sorry, not FEC tomorrow. What committee is it going to next?
Transportation.
Transportation tomorrow, sorry. It's going to transportation, so I know there will be a deep dive into the transportation aspect of this tomorrow. But just from a Parks and Recreation standpoint, I know there were some recommendations there about some of the pieces that they needed to kind of focus on. Just want to know if you could speak to them directly.
Sure. And so what you saw from like I said, out of the 10 recommendations, 8 were for the COO, right? One was for Parks and Rec, and it's really around how their budgets and things are laid out in Oracle, which differs across the other departments. So part of that recommendation was to make sure that we're all more unified, because it's easier to pull and compare where we are with projects if everyone is using the same tracking system, especially in Oracle. So we were receptive to that recommendation, and we'll be moving forward with it.
Okay. Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you, Madam COO, for coming forward to give us a great explanation on some of the delays. Just a quick question on attendance as far as employees coming back to work full-time. Where are we on that?
Sure. Thank you for that question. That is one of the things that we have been talking about. And there is a small group of people, small group of cabinet members who are working on what does return to work look like. Actually, we'll have an audit coming out soon. We met on that today around transitioning back to work. And the auditors did a survey of our employees. So you'll hear more about that as we get into that. And a lot of those recommendations or fact-finding that they were able to do will feed into the small group, working group that we have of cabinet members who are working on what return to work looks like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Other questions, comments from colleagues? So I will make a motion to accept and file. So we have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Oh, sorry, it doesn't.
Oh, no, we're ready. The vote is
Accept and
open.
file is the right
Yes,
motion,
that's correct. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been accepted and filed. It will move on to Transportation Committee tomorrow.
Real quick, COO, I'm guessing we will go over each individual council will be going over this with you and Commissioner over the coming months individually.
With all commissioners, depending on, yes. So I want to make sure, we're transitioning from the COO's office taking the lead, because all of this does not rest in one department.
Understood.
And so the various commissioners will be meeting where there are project lists in each of your respective districts.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So now it takes us to the regular agenda portion. I'm sorry, we've already completed the public comment section, but we're more than happy to have a conversation with you after. Not for a legislative item. You're more than happy to go catch their COO if she walked out. I'm sorry, she just left. So if you want to go catch her or catch somebody from her staff, I'm not sure if she's standing there or not, but we can have that conversation after the. I'm more. So we're going to move on with the regular agenda portion. You're more than happy to stay and talk to us after we have this conversation.
I'm asking a question. You are not giving us an opportunity to be involved in the process. Now, we can go to the federal government. We can ask them to give us information on the field. You are not going to give us everything you can to keep us from having a voice in this government. I'm asking you, are you going to offer ask me if you are going to ask us to leave, or do we have to sit here like mongols and listen to what you say and don't say okay?
Excuse me. So what district do you live in?
I live in 11.
Okay. So what we can do is we can reach out to the District 11 council member to see if they can talk specifically about project. No, she's not in this committee. So we can have somebody from her office to try to come out and speak to you. So we'll work on that. Oh, and Councilmember Bond has something. That is correct, ma'am. So Councilmember Bond, you had something?
I'm asking Mr. Bond, all the rest of you on let the communities know how you spending this money. Because if not, we can ask for an audit. And we can ask for a public hearing, and it doesn't have to be. But I'm saying, I've sat at home and watched this all along, and I haven't said a word. I'm saying a word now because none of you are coming back here to sit in those seats the next time. Not any of you. You've mistreated this community and my community and all of Atlanta for so many years. You've done nothing for us but sat in your own pocket. And I'm tired of it. The FBI is over here. You got the unmitigated goal to say to a person who is designated to investigate. You ain't gonna get nothing. You ain't gonna get nothing. Because we don't have to do that. We have to break law. If you get money and sign on that dotted line that you accept any investigation. Anybody should know that. I just have to work for the department. But I know you have an obligation to give them that money, or you'll be just like Mr. Kilpatrick up in Chicago. They'll come in and lock these doors. Now, I'm telling you, they'll come up with some way that we can have access to the information you get and the taxpayer money we pay. If you don't, we're going to go to the federal government and ask them to come back and look at everything. A forensic office, that's what you need. So I don't have to talk to her because she was supposed to come back about me. She was in the parks department. The law says you're supposed to do a study. A study was done. The money never came to the people that really did the report said it was supposed to get. You all are just discriminating against black people all along trying to get black people going to work. I'm telling you, I'm going to be in front of the line when it comes to vote.
Ma'am?
Councilmember Bond, you have the floor.
Yeah, I want to respond to you, ma'am. The committee no, I'm blind in my left eye. I can't see that. Okay, I'm sorry. No, I just want to respond to you. Are you
no response because I got a
okay? Well, are you responding to the audit of the bond funds, or is because it sounded like you also referenced the situation with the IG, with the inspector generals? Okay.
I work for the I work for the federal government for I can investigate. I know the
Okay.
So all I'm saying to you is, let us in on the money you get,
Yes, ma'am.
and we're not getting it.
Okay, well,
Most of you don't even go to your NGU.
in this process, the way the committee's structure is now, it was changed when Felicia Moore was president, that they have set the agenda, the agenda mirrors in every committee. It used to be prior to that that the chair had the power and authority to alter the agenda. In this current state, public comment is reserved for the beginning of the meeting so that the public can address the committee. And each person, unless it's voted on or altered, gets 3 minutes. Every piece of information that we get from the departments, from the auditor, from any part of city government is subject to open records and is public information. Anything that any part of these reports, any audits or anything that is shared in city government, everything from emails to text messages is subject to public records and can be shared. As far as the auditor go, there is a public hearing Thursday morning, right? It's Thursday at 10 a.m. Is it in this room? It's in the main council chamber. So there is a public hearing this Thursday at 10 a.m. in the Marvin S. Arrington council chamber room. So you're more than, of course, free to. No, that's about the auditor and what you referenced about the IG. That meeting is Thursday.
So, Ms. Ladapo?
Yeah.
Ms. Ladapo?
But anything you
Ms.
get.
Edith, we have folks from the auditor's department that are still here. If you have specific questions, they might be able to help you.
Well, that's what I was referencing about the changes that Council President Moore had her supporters on the council at that time make, so that the public commenting is only at the beginning and it's only 3 minutes. Prior to that, a chair of any committee could, with the acquiescence of the members of the committee, allow the public to speak at any time. But that is no longer the case. I didn't vote for those changes.
And Ms. Ladapo, I'm more than happy.
Yeah.
Ms. Ladapo. Ms. Ladapo. Ms. Ladapo.
No, yeah, I didn't vote for the restriction. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm saying,
Ms. Ladapo, I'm more than happy to wait after this meeting and have a conversation with you, but we would like to continue.
I know you'd like to continue me, but talk if they haven't never talked before.
Yes, we did.
All right, that takes us to ordinances for second reading. 24-0-1658, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier to waive Section 15-07006 of the Land Subdivision Ordinance of the City of Atlanta for the purposes of facilitating an acknowledgement of 1706 Browning Street Southwest as 2 separate lots substantially consistent with the historic configuration and prevailing plat pattern and for other purposes.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Bakhtiari. I will second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. 25-0-1035, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute an agreement granting the Atlanta Development Authority, doing business as Invest Atlanta, an option to purchase the city's interest in the property located at 1029 McDaniel Street Southwest, Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia, 30310, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city to execute all documents necessary to consummate such transaction and for other purposes.
Councilmember Bond.
Yeah, I was asked by the administration to introduce this paper. So are we purchasing this property or is it being transferred to the city?
Hi, so thank you, Chair. Thank
State
you.
your name for the record. No, go ahead, Carolyn. Yeah.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. So this is Carolyn Kovar with the mayor's office. So this is a property that would be purchased by Invest Atlanta. It is currently a city property.
Okay.
So the property, this is the standard process to option the property over to Invest Atlanta for redevelopment. Formerly, this property was brought through several months of community engagement with the Pittsburgh neighborhood and then MPUV, wherein we developed a preliminary redevelopment plan and a rezoning for the property. We rezoned that property from R4B to RLC last November. That received a vote of approval from Pittsburgh, as well as MPUV and the zoning committee for this redevelopment plan. And then in order to take and bring that redevelopment plan to procurement to draft an RFQ for a developer to come in to redevelop the property, it would go over to Invest Atlanta. This is a process that has been used in the case of 104 Trinity and a number of other public land properties. So this is the standard procedure we've done to operate other properties as affordable housing, as well as commercial and retail space.
Well, I thank you for the explanation of the process, but that's not the issue. The project itself is not the issue. The issue is between governmental agencies. My belief is that there should not be a purchase, right? We should convey the property.
So it's technically stated as a purchase, but it is, if you read through the legislation, it's $1. So it's essentially a conveyance. This is just the process that we've been advised by city law to follow. In this case, we use it also with the Metro Atlanta Land Bank. So it is in all essentially a conveyance, except for the fact that for the process legally, it is $1 purchase. And that is
that's reassuring to know, because a few years ago, when the city errantly gave the Civic Center to Invest Atlanta, then Invest Atlanta sold it to AHA for $20 million. That should not have occurred. And so I didn't want my name on a piece of legislation that followed that process.
Right.
Being the father of Invest Atlanta, I did the legislation that created it. I don't want to see it doing things that it ought not do.
Right.
So thank you for clarifying that.
In accordance with that development authority's law. It's the process outlined there. So absolutely, we are.
Right, because between these governmental entities, there shouldn't be a purchase or exchange of money. That's money that could go into adding to, affordable housing and many, many other things.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Bond. Any other questions, comments from colleagues? Got a motion to approve by Westmoreland. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Yeah.
Okay. 25-0-1041, an ordinance by Councilmember Ishay Collins authorizing the City of Atlanta to execute a quitclaim deed conveying the city's interest in a 0.20 acre portion of the former A.D. Williams Elementary School located at 0 James Jackson Parkway in land lot 259 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia, tax parcel ID listed, to the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, to support the redevelopment of the Bowen Choice Neighborhood Project, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city to execute such quitclaim deeds and all other necessary documents to effectuate the intent of this ordinance, to waive certain provisions of the Procurement and Real Estate Code, City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, this item needs to be amended to add Exhibit A, B, and adding Councilmember Hillis as a co-sponsor.
I'll make a motion to amend. I have a second by Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. You can list them as yay in there. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended.
Make a motion to approve as amended. Second by Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable as amended. That takes us to resolutions. 25R 3081, a resolution by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $75,000.00 from the account listed herein to Cascade Springs Nature Preserve pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta Charter, to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute a donation agreement and for other purposes.
Thank you. And I'll make the motion to approve. I did speak to Councilmember Collier Overstreet. She just wanted to just state that she is using her District 11 Moving Atlanta Forward discretionary account for this donation. So I will make a motion to approve.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. 25R 3082, substitute changes the caption. May we have a motion to bring forth the substitute?
Motion to bring forth the substitute. Second by Bakhtiari. Oh, second by, sorry.
Is this regarding the heavy equipment? Okay, we definitely want to ban heavy equipment, but we want the unhoused residents to be able to get sanitation services, trash picked up, but not heavy equipment.
So, we've talked about, we want to add an amendment that specifically calls out the use of heavy equipment in this legislation. I don't know if my colleagues have any comments or concerns about.
Well, our concern is about the heavy equipment.
And obviously,
Would you like to withdraw your motion so that we can put that in the substitute?
Yes. You have a substitute, bring forth the substitute?
Heavy equipment is in the substitute. The trash pickup is not. You can bring forth an amendment or you can put that in the substitute.
sorry. Okay, we'll add it to the substitute.
All right, what's the language you would like to use?
We want to ban heavy equipment around homeless encampments, but we would like for them to receive trash pickup and be able to clean up and keep the area sanitized.
Okay, that has been added to the substitute. Now, may we have a motion to bring forth the substitute again?
Make a motion to bring forth the substitute.
Second.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you. The new substituted caption is a resolution by council members Liliana Bakhtiari and Antonio Lewis, as substituted by Community Development Human Services Committee, calling for a moratorium on the use of heavy equipment and the clearing of encampments until such time that procedures can be reviewed and updated to ensure the safety of residents, requesting a report from the Atlanta Continuum of Care on the procedures and practices around encampment clearing, requiring publishing to the public of the findings of the report, and requiring trash pickup for the unhoused. That works?
Repeat that again, so we
The
can.
entire caption?
Yes.
Okay. A resolution by council members Liliana Bakhtiari and Antonio Lewis, as substituted by Community Development Human Services Committee, calling for a moratorium on the use of heavy equipment and the clearing of encampments until such time that procedures can be reviewed and updated to ensure the safety of residents, requesting a report from the Atlanta Continuum of Care on the procedures and practices around encampment clearing, requiring publishing to the public of the findings of the report. And let's say,
And we want to change that last line to sanitary services.
okay. And require that the unhoused receive sanitary services?
Correct. Have law speak to this, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta, Department of Law. I would make a recommendation that the language concerning sanitary services be placed in a form of a request, as it's a resolution. So rather than requiring, it would be requesting the provision of such services. And of course, that substitute should reflect this in the operable clauses, not just the caption, the be it resolved clauses as well. Thank you.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, the new caption would read, a resolution by council members Liliana Bakhtiari and Antonio Lewis, as substituted by Community Development Human Services Committee, calling for a moratorium on the use of heavy equipment and the clearing of encampments until such time that procedures can be reviewed and updated to ensure the safety of residents, requesting a report from the Atlanta Continuum of Care on the procedures and practices around encampment clearing, requiring publishing of the public of the findings of the report, requesting sanitation services to the unhoused and for other purposes. And a subsequent resolve clause will also state that we are requesting sanitation services for the unhoused.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This piece of legislation is a companion of sorts to the resolution by Councilmember Winston that's coming up in 2. That resolution mentions that the task force that's being created will make its initial report to the mayor and council with these 33 organizations that we're going to be adding in a substitute within 45 days of the adoption of the resolution. And so I'm wondering whether we should make the 30-day timing 45 days so that these 33 organizations can help us inform what we do after that. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to amend both this piece of legislation and when we get to it, the next one, to change the 30 days to 45 so that it can run in conjunction with the task force.
Want to make an amendment?
And as a part of my amendment, you can add Councilmember Boone's name.
The amendment was to change the deadline to 45 days?
Correct. And add council members Boone and Winston and Bond.
Boone, Winston, and Bond, okay. Okay, can I have a motion to bring that amendment forward? The vote is open. The vote is closed, 5 yeas, 0 nays. That item has been amended. If you all are okay with the current substitute, can I have a unanimous consent motion to bring it, to include all those changes?
Mr. Parliamentarian.
Real quick, I want to make a clarifying point while this occurs. I want to make it very clear to the task force because I'm sorry, to Housing Justice League and the other organizers who have worked so hard on this. And I know you are having a meeting with the administration tomorrow. I want to make it very clear that the intent is to come back. And if I need to if I need to do legislation to extend, I absolutely will. I will be deferring to you. I will be deferring to the experts on this, which in large part I consider to be you all. So I wanted to make that very clear. Right. Yes. And so I think the idea behind, you want to address that or do you want me to?
Let's take our motion.
Let's
take our proper motion first.
Sorry, the motion would just be to adopt as substituted as amended.
So I think we had that motion by Councilmember Westmoreland. Approve. Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve as substituted and amended.
Yes.
Is there a second? Second. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed, 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is approved on substitute as amended. Something like that.
Councilmember Boone, do you want to speak to?
Just wanting to be clear that we are banning heavy equipment at this time during the cleaning and clearing of the unhoused population. We want to make sure that we're not using any heavy equipment, but they will receive trash pick. Thank you.
That takes us to 25R 3083, a resolution by council members Liliana Bakhtiari, Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, Ishay Collins, Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron Amos, Jason Dozier, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Mary Norwood, Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, and Antonio Lewis to expand the East Atlanta Village Homelessness Outreach Program to more effectively address homelessness across Atlanta neighborhoods, to direct the Chief Financial Officer or his designee to allocate funding to expand the program and for other purposes.
Bakhtiari.
Well, first, should we amend that to say this is Chief Operating Officer and her or her designee, since our COO is a woman?
It says Chief Financial Officer.
Oh, Chief Financial, my bad. I apologize. That is my bad, Jasmine. I can't hear today. Real quick, I do want to speak to this before I make a motion to approve. I really want to thank my colleagues for this. There was a presentation to this committee around the pilot program we ran in East Atlanta for a full-time case manager. We had the same full-time case manager on the ground working with people that were unhoused in East Atlanta, working to connect them with their families, working to get them resources, teaching them about sharps boxes, dispensing with a medical street team, and helping them with their paperwork, everything. This got more than 40 people in our housing queue just in East Atlanta. We were able to work with the neighborhood to advocate for permanent supportive housing in the neighborhood, our first of which opened at the end of last year. And the people that were in East Atlanta that were in that queue are also getting to be funneled into this housing, the Atlanta Motel with wraparound services. And they're getting to stay in their own neighborhood. We got a PhD student did her dissertation on this and presented immense amounts of data. And my colleagues thankfully appreciated the program, liked it, and wanted to see expanded into their districts. The idea is having full-time case managers on the ground will win the trust of the people in the community and make sure that they get the services needed for them. And this case manager program, for example, on Wheat Street, would be able to work with the people on the street to get them their paperwork, to get them connected to resources, to educate them, to advocate for them, and to get them housing in their own community. So that is what this is based off of. And we did it in partnership with In-Town Cares. And we hope to see them I hope to see this expanded, and I believe it will continue to reduce homelessness holistically in all of our neighborhoods. So I motion to approve.
On a motion to approve, I'll second. Councilman Bond?
I just want to say again, because when I saw the presentation those months ago, I was completely blown away. This is a fantastic idea and a fantastic program, and I'm so excited to see it expanding to different areas of the city. And this is something that ought to be replicated citywide and become the standard in Atlanta. It's the type of direct constituent services for those who've been around a long time and are long in the tooth that Max Barber, the former public service commissioner, used to provide. During the late 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, he had exemplary public service. He kept the utilities from turning people's lights off. He would come to people's homes, no matter where they lived in Georgia, and meet them and provided that type of service. This is exemplary. And so it seems mundane because of where we are and what we're doing, but this is a tremendous boost to serving those who need it the most. And so I'm proud to have my name on it, and just want to salute Matt, you, and Liliana, for the beginning program over in East Atlanta. I mean, it's just tremendous, and it's going to pay huge dividends in the city and make a huge difference.
Thank you. So a motion to approve has been properly second.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. 25R 3086. The substitute changes the caption. May I have a motion to bring forth the substitute?
Motion to bring forth the substitute.
Second.
Second by Bakhtiari.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is not before us. A resolution by Councilmember Jason Winston, as substituted by Community Development Human Services Committee, establishing a City of Atlanta Homelessness Task Force in accordance with Section 3-401 of the City of Atlanta Charter, which shall be charged with the examination of the city's current policies and procedures utilized to address issues surrounding persons experiencing homelessness, to determine whether these policies and procedures adequately address the current needs of persons experiencing homelessness and the public safety concerns of residents and visitors to the City of Atlanta, and which shall be charged with making written recommendations to the mayor and the Atlanta City Council in regards thereto, to establish that this task force shall hold no fewer than 4 public meetings and shall make its initial report to the mayor and the Atlanta City Council no later than 45 days from the approval of this resolution, and its final report no later than 90 days from the approval of this resolution, and for other purposes.
Thank you. I'm going to bring up Shatika Ellison to speak to this legislation.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Shatika Ellison, Director of Special Projects in the Mayor's Office. So the purpose, like Jasmine just mentioned, of this is to have a more coordination between all of the organizations that touch any type of homelessness work in the city. I think from our point of view, we need a more aerial view of all the resources that are available and all the people that are working in the various encampments or with the individuals. So the purpose would be to create some SOPs regarding clearing and cleaning encampments, outreach services, family reunification, medical and mental health, and also just engaging the community more in the work that we do.
I wonder if we should add a rise.
So with this group at the end, the first 45 days will report out to council. It's a 90-day task force. And we're hoping that this group of people, which is a very diverse group of organizations, we have members from academia, from Georgia State, clergy. I know earlier someone mentioned a number of organizations that they wanted to be included, and at least 3 of those are already on there. Housing Justice League, obviously Partners for Home, In-Town Cares, who did the work in East Atlanta.
And I'll read the list so everyone has it.
Okay, so it's a very diverse group, and we wanted to make sure that we had voices from all over, people who boots on the ground, people who are at the policy level, and also people who are advocates for helping us fund this type of work. So we wanted to get everybody at the table to kind of talk about their point of view and discuss some of the barriers that we're all facing and how we can have more comprehensive solutions to this issue.
And I just want to take a time to just read members that we've asked to be part of this task force. So we have the City of Atlanta's Mayor's Office, Atlanta Police Department, City of Atlanta Department of Public Works, Georgia Department of Community Affairs, Georgia State University, Fulton County, Invest Atlanta, Atlanta Housing, Central Atlanta Progress, Atlanta Downtown Improvement District, Atlanta Committee for Progress, Partners for Home, Gateway Center, In-Town Cares, Safe House, Hope Atlanta, Housing Justice League, Restoring One's Hope of Atlanta, Georgia Works, Beautiful Closet, Church of the Common Ground, Antioch Urban Ministries, Antioch Baptist Church North, Central Outreach and Advocacy Center, Traveling Grace Ministries, Wheat Street Baptist Church, Ebenezer Baptist Church, Salvation Army, Mercy Care, Atlanta Dream Center, Hosea Helps, and You First. So just wanted to run down the list of folks. We've brought a very diverse group of people that we hope can help us, make the right recommendations as we move forward and find a way that the city can continue to do encampment closures in a very humane way. That takes into account the individuals on a human level. And so I'm glad to see that, and I know some of my colleagues may have any questions or concerns that they want to address. Westmoreland.
Sure, I just, to remain consistent with the other piece of legislation, I was just going to change the number 30 to 45. All right, I'm going to make a motion to amend the 5th whereas clause to change the number 30 to 45, so it's consistent with Councilmember Bakhtiari's legislation and so that these listed organizations can actually help form what comes after day 45.
We have a motion to amend. We have a second by Councilmember Bond.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been amended.
I'll make a motion to approve as amended. I have a second by Councilmember Bond. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We appreciate it. We look forward to working with you and members of the task force. So thank you.
This takes us to papers held in committee. We have 3 items coming off. The first is number 1224R3441, a resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to establish a neighborhood sports council and for other purposes. This item requires a substitute. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you. The substitute revises resolve clauses, including identifying funding, removing a duplicate representative, and changing the sunset year to 2028.
I'll make a motion to approve as substituted. And a second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute. Number 17, 24-0-1622, an amended ordinance by council members Dustin Hillis, Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Matt Westmoreland, Jason Dozier, Byron D. Amos, Amir Faroki, Jason Winston, Mary Norwood, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Michael Julian Bond, and Liliana Bakhtiari to rename Westside Reservoir Park to Shirley Clark Franklin Park, to waive certain provisions of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Move approval.
A motion to approve by Councilmember Boone, second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Number 19, 24-0-1691, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond to amend the Atlanta City Code, Part 2, Chapter 158, Article 2, to adopt a new tree protection ordinance for the City of Atlanta and for other purposes. This item requires a substitute. May I have a motion to bring forth the substitute?
Motion to bring forth the substitute. Second. Second by Councilmember Bakhtiari.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item has been substituted. This item will need to be reheld for MPU review. So can I have a motion to hold?
Second. Second by Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Can you repeat the mover, please? The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held in committee. That concludes our legislative items.
Yes, so just want to remind everyone that we will have a, sorry, 1 second. Oh.
No, no one told me about that. Okay, we are going to bring off. The department requests to bring off of hold 24-0-1687. This is the short-term rental license requirements. Is that the correct paper?
And do what with it?
Commissioner Prince.
Yes, sir. My apologies for the confusion. The short-term rentals paper will go to the NPUs in February. So
it will follow the same course as the tree protection ordinance.
yes,
paper.
because remember that even though it's a licensing ordinance, the fees will change. So it has to go to the NPUs. And remember that the zoning committee had on their agenda yesterday the associated administrative variance paper, and those two would travel together. So the zoning paper has to go to the NPUs. This will go with them so that with that paper so that there's no confusion about the big picture.
So are we bringing off held to add substituted language is the question?
I was informed there was no substitute.
No, we are going to move it forward with the current language, and there may be a substitute after the NPUs have reviewed and voted.
Councilmember Westmoreland.
This might be a law question. Does this committee have the ability to send things to the MPUs?
So
This committee has the ability, excuse me, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta Department of Law. This committee has the ability to send things to MPUs for review pursuant to, I believe the section is 2-45, which might be necessary in this particular ordinance due to an increase in a fee that is proposed. And so if there is a fee increase or a fee change or a fee establishment, those are required, the paper is required to go to MPUs for review. That's separate from any MPU review that might occur as part of a zoning or ZPL process.
So the motion would be to refer to MPUs. Just never seen that. Not in a zoning
So,
committee.
I mean, I would say this, if the paper is held, which I believe it is, if there is a desire to go ahead and send it to the MPUs, that did not require the council to vote to do so. It could have already been sent to the MPUs, so, I mean, the vote of this committee.
So it will just continue to be held in committee and can be
It's
sent.
my understanding, if there is no substitute or amendment to be brought forward, and I apologize, but I'm unclear as to the request to bring it off of held.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And thank you, Commissioner. I know that you're doing what you need to do. I suppose my question again is for law or the parliamentarian or someone, because there are amendments I would like to propose for this paper, and I don't know when that is supposed to take, or to discuss, and I don't know when that is meant to take place.
Councilmember Bakhtiari, we believe that we will receive a lot of feedback on this ordinance as it moves through the process. And as we hear from people in the community and the industry and so forth, I think it's likely that we will have a substitute ordinance at the end of the NPU review.
Okay, and please forgive my ignorance. Remind me again how long that approximately takes?
So it will come back to you at the end of March.
Okay, and so we are allowing them to review the paper in its current form, and then when it comes back at the end of March, we'll have the ability to discuss and potentially amend. Is that what it?
Yes. That's what we will do.
Ms. Robinson, did you want to? No? Okay.
So we just made a motion to hold the tree protection.
Yes, we brought
so there should be no course of action here for this paper.
Well, the reason I came up was because I wanted it to be known that it was going to go to the NPUs for review, and I just wanted to make that clear, and my apologies if I did not fully understand this. We have the two related ordinances going through two different committees, and they're both going to the NPUs, so just wanted everybody to be clear on what was happening, not trying to create extra work for everyone.
Commissioner, thank you. And I just want to clarify again, because for my constituency and people that have asked me about this, is that no, this is not being adopted today. It's just going through its process. This will come back at the end of March, where we will be able to have additional discussion. This is just a period of time for the communities at each of the MPUs to weigh in. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we are
Yes,
at the end
that
of our
brings us to
agenda.
the end
Do
of
we have
our
any
agenda.
parting words or comments from colleagues?
Yes, I would like to offer condolences to retired Judge Andrew Hairston, who passed over the past week. He was a member of the Chalet Payton Community Association, and a street, Mr. Bond, what street bears his name in Vine City? He was the former pastor of the Simpson Street Church of God in Christ, and also appointed to the bench by the Honorable Maynard Jackson. So we would like to offer condolences to the family of the Honorable Andrew Harrison, who was solicitor at one point in the City of Atlanta court.
Councilmember Bond.
Yes, I want to also add my voice to that. I've worked with Judge Hairston through my role a lifetime ago when I worked in the corrections department and was assigned the officer for arraignments between the courts and the jail. But got to know Reverend Hairston as a fixture in the community as the pastor of the church. He ascended in his presence in the community after leaving the bench, oddly enough, and became a real stalwart in serving the community and the least of these. I also want to extend condolences to the family of Reverend Eric Terrell. I'm sure somebody probably mentioned him during public comment, but he has passed away. And I knew him for decades and decades, and he was a disciple of Reverend Hosea Williams and part of the Red Shirt crew, and actually got a medallion from Jose, which was a sure sign that you were doing something on behalf of the least of these in Atlanta. We had the privilege of honoring him at City Hall a few years ago, and just want to extend our deep condolences to his family and friends. He continued to work and advocate for people really up until his last. So just wanted to uplift his name here today.
Thank you. And with that, we stand adjourned.